Convo podcast. I'm happy to be back. If this is your first time tuning into the show, do me a favor. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you are listening to the podcast on one of the digital platforms, so if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, if you're listening to it on Apple Podcast, Overcast, Google Podcast, all these different places, please do me a favor and not only like the video, but leave a review. If you leave a review on the video, I repeat, if you leave a review on the video, it raises us in the algorithms, more viewers, more of an impact, so please do that for me, family. So how's everybody doing, man? Good Tuesday here. I'm here in Sacramento, California. Let's get this thing popping, man. If this is your first time listening, meaning if you're not aware of what I actually do here, we do a few different things on the Melanated Convo podcast. We talk about news stories, different things going on in the black community, just as far as our families are concerned, as far as our kids are concerned, different news stories about police brutality. These things do still happen, you feel me? So it's important that we touch on them. I get backlash at times because people tell me you need to quit focusing on racism and all this different shit, but to me, the only way to truly get rid of a problem is to focus on it. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk about light topics at times, but my passion is speaking to my people about things that can empower us, right? So let's get everything going, family. Also, on the Melanated Convo podcast, we do, let me get this out of your face a little bit if I can. Also, on the Melanated Convo podcast, we do something called the Black Business Spotlight, right? Where I talk about different black businesses in the community that you need to be aware of. You know what I mean? Different black businesses in the community that you need to be aware of are standing here in the United States. Finances is a extremely important part of that. You feel me? And meaning where we shop, who we shop with, who we give our money to, all these things are extremely important, right? So I always tell people one of the revolutionary acts that you can partake in is actually cash mobbing black businesses, like making it a point to support black businesses. And sometimes we get on this shit where we have all these high expectations for black businesses that we don't put on other businesses. Meaning, if you go to a black business and let's just say for any reason, the service isn't what you wanted it to be, or let's just say for any reason, something happened that you didn't like, whatever the case may be, right? We need to make sure that we give our people the benefit of the doubt. The same way we do when we go to Walmart or Target or the little Asian store down the street, all these places that we spend our money with, these people sometimes can mistreat us and do things that we don't like, and we still go back and shop with them. You feel me? So it's important that we give our people that same type of liberty. You know what I mean? So let's get this thing popping, man. The first thing we're going to do today is discuss our black businesses with the Black Business Spotlight. Now, this normally I do two different businesses, but today I'm going to do two different businesses, but it's by the same person, right? Yesterday, I interviewed my brother Kwame Curry, who is a serial entrepreneur. I gave him that name yesterday, who is a serial entrepreneur. And the brother got several different businesses, right? But today we're going to talk about two of his businesses. The first business on the Black Business Spotlight on today's show of the Melanated Convo podcast is Cocky Media Graphics and Printing. So, if you're a business owner, if you have an event coming up, if you have, something that needs to be done, expediently, this is the brother to go to. He can do graphic design, which will be logos, flyers, business cards, things like that. The brother does web design as well, e-commerce and standard social media. He does custom printing. So, a couple years ago, here in Sacramento, I do a softball game every year for Father's Day. COVID has kind of put a cramp in that, but this year we're going to do it again. But I say all that to say the brother helped me with my shirts a couple years ago. So he does quality, he does a quality job too. You know what I mean? So that's the important thing to understand. Like when we support black businesses, it's one thing to just support us and do it because the person's black, but really if we want to help out, we should make sure that it's a qualified business, right? We should make sure that it's a qualified service. And my brother Kwame, he does a great job. Like the quality of his service, I'm sure you'll be happy with, right? So again, to find these services, it's Cocky Media Graphics and Printing. You can go to cockygraphics.com. That's KOCIGRAPHX. PHX. That's cockygraphics.com. Again, the brother has logos, flyers. He helps you with social media. He can do like email marketing, TV, radio, billboards, whatever you need, right? So go to Cocky Media today. Cocky Media today. And again, this is a brother that I've actually done business with. So he's a great businessman. The prices are reasonable because we need to get off of this price shit. Sometimes we feel because the person is black, because the person looks like us, then for some reason you should get a discount or they should hook you up and all this. That whole mentality is unproductive, family. We need to be willing to pay exactly what they want, the same way we do when we go to Gucci or Fendi or all these other white folks who don't give a shit about us. You know what I mean? So we need to treat our black business the same way. Pay what the person is worth. Me and Kwame was talking about this yesterday when I interviewed the brother. Like, respect people's time. Like, we need to understand that black businesses, when you're supporting a black business, understand that they're putting time and effort into presenting whatever product that they're giving you. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Like pay whatever they're charging for their services. And you never know if we get to a point where we're continually supporting people and they're really popular and they're really successful, maybe then they can bring some of the prices down. Whatever the case may be, but we have to help out. And we can't expect the goddamn hookup all the time. You know what I mean? So let's get everything going, man. So that's Cocky Media, Graphics, and Printing. My boy Kwame Curry. So if you need a flyer, you need some graphics, you got an event coming up, my boy will be able to take care of you. The website again is KOCI Graphics, GRAPHX.com. You feel me? So let's go. Next business. Like I said, the next business is this brother's second business. He got like 3 or 4 businesses. That's 3 or 4 businesses. That's why I called a brother a serial entrepreneur. You feel me? So we'll go to the brother's next business. And keep in mind, today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about all of the Asian people being mistreated, or so has been reported in the media. We're going to dig into that. We're going to dig into, many of you may not be aware of the term Uncle Tom that we use. I'm going to break down the origins of that term and what we should really be saying. Also on the show today, we have a story about, I'm sure everybody is seeing what's going on in Boulder, Colorado, the unfortunate incident where we have, an individual go inside of a store and kill like 10 innocent people. So we're going to talk about that and some of the dichotomy surrounding that situation. I also have a story about, a woman in Indianapolis who last month, she was murdered by police in 2019, but her family is trying to sue the city of Indianapolis or the city of Indiana. So we're going to go over some information about that, and just talking about how we should be patrolled in our neighborhoods. And again, I know sometimes people get tired of the stories involving police shootings or the stories involving police misconduct. But unfortunately, y'all, if we want this shit to stop, we have to continue to talk about it. And sometimes people tell me, police don't just hurt black people. They're mistreating Asian people. They're mistreating white people. I beg to differ. I don't think nobody in America gets treated like we get treated when it comes to police enforcement. And I'll stand on that. You know what I'm saying? And even if there are one-offs where other members of different communities are treated fucked up by the police, I have to focus on what happens to our people. You know what I mean? So let's get this thing going, man. The next business, again, by my boy, Kwame Curry, the next business that we're going to talk about is his clothing line called Cocky Clothing. Cocky Clothing, KOCI, Cocky Clothing. Now, if you go to his website, which is shopcocky.com, you will see that it has a lot of different things on the website, right? He has men's clothing, women's clothing, kids' clothing, a lot of different hoodies, a lot of different sportswear. He have masks available. If you're someone who needs him to design you a shirt, he can actually design the shirt for you. If you want to put like screen print, like unfortunately if there's a funeral or something going on like that where you guys need shirts, he'll be able to take care of that for you. If you want to put like a family portrait on the shirt, he'll be able to do that. And again, me being familiar with the brother, the quality of the clothing is great. And that's something we need to always focus on, y'all. Yes, we should support black businesses, but we should support qualified black businesses, because you're doing your partner a disservice if you know that his product is shitty and you supporting him and not keeping it real with him. I'm not saying don't spend no money with him, but you got to let him know. You got to put him to the side. Again, you're not going to go online or blast him off some way like that. You're going to pull him to the side and let him know, hey, look, man, this could be better or that could be better, right? We just need to take the time to communicate with each other, opposed to just using social media or going behind somebody's back and talking some shit. You know what I mean? So let's get it going, man. So that's Cocky Clothing. You can find the clothes at shopcocky.com. Again, there are several different shirts, from sports attires, talking about the 49ers, the Raiders, you know, all different sports teams. He has a lot of shirts angled at black liberation, which I personally like. He has shirts, he has a Nipsey Hussle shirt, a Michael Jordan shirt, Kamala Harris shirt. The designs are really creative. And again, I've experienced the brother's clothing firsthand. So not only is he very creative, but the quality of the clothing is the shit. So go to shopcocky.com. You may have a birthday coming up. You know what I mean? An anniversary. You know what I mean? Something like that. Always a great time to buy some nice gear, right? And again, we spend a lot of money outside of our community on clothing. A lot of money outside of our community on clothing. We like getting fly. Try to support a black business. Because I'm not saying, we live in a predominantly white society, right? And a lot of the infrastructure in this country isn't black shit, right? So we understand that. So am I saying every product you have in your house or in your closet should be a black product? I mean, if you can, but if not, just even it out, right? If you want some Gucci shit, or if you want to go and spend a lot of money with a popular designer that's not black, it's your money, family. You can do what you want to do. But try to mix that shit in with somebody who look like you. That's all I'm asking. You buy some Jordans, go to the Black Dollar store and buy some of the shoes they have there. And it's the shoes. I told somebody that one time, and they frowned their nose up at me. The shoes aren't $1, but they have athletic shoes designed or inspired by our ex-leaders, inspired by Malcolm X, inspired by the black liberation movement, right? And these are shoes that I have myself that are extremely comfortable, a lot less expensive than some Georgia or some shit like that. A lot of this, y'all, is a mindset, family. It's mentally deciding that we are worth it. Like, it's mentally deciding that we are quality too, right? Because I'll have a pair of these shoes on, which honestly, and again, this is a different business I'm going to, but whatever. The blackdollarstore.com, these are the most comfortable running shoes, the most comfortable athletic shoes that I've had in my 40 years of living, right? And I'll have these shoes on, and somebody will be like, damn, what is them? Thinking that it's some designer they know. Once I tell them, hey, I got it from the Black Dollar Store, they was $60, they're like, they get to frowning up at me, right? Y'all, this is the mentality. This is the mentality. We need to realize that we make shit cool. Black folks make shit cool. Whatever is, for the most part, in pop culture, the fashion and the culture that we represent is what is used by the entire world. Whatever we say is cool, they say the shit is cool too. You know what I mean? So we need to continue to be trendsetters and not be so caught up in labels, not be so caught up in branding. Because I understand that from our communities, a lot of us have been disenfranchised, or a lot of our families have been disenfranchised, right? So when it comes to feeling worth something, the society that we live in, has went out of their way at times to make us feel worthless. So in our communities, to feel like we're worth something, we'll use shoes to do that. We'll use jewelry to do that. We'll use whatever it may be just so we can feel like we're somebody, right? And I can't knock my people, because I understand the trauma that we've had to deal with in this country, right? So I understand it, but Parents, it's about time that we begin teaching our kids about history and walking back to give them an understanding of everything we've been through so we can start unlearning some of this shit that's not healthy for us. Because if you live in a household making shit $23,000 a year, ain't no way your mama should be buying you Jordans. But all too often, I see dysfunctional environments, dysfunctional household where the kid ain't even focusing on school, the kid ain't even focused on grooming himself, but he got some goddamn Jordans on. Like, that's a priority shift that needs to take place. You know what I mean? So, back to the, I know I went on a tangent there, but back to the second business, cockyclothing.com with my boy Kwame Curry, cockyclothing.com. So go to shopcocky.com. That's shopkoci.com. Shopcocky.com. Go to the website today. Very, very nice website, and he has a plethora of different type of clothing for men, women, and children, hoodies, different collections. Check the brother out. Now, let's get everything popping with the news stories, family. Like I just told you a few minutes ago, I'm sure everybody is aware right now of the different incidents involving Asian Americans around the country, as far as, you know, the massage parlors and different places like that. Go ahead, boy. The massage parlors in different places like that. There's been several incidents in New York as well where Asian people have been violated in different ways. A lot of them have been killed, right? So we're going to talk about that. So give me 1 second here. Pull up some good information that I had. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. So I'll read this article that I found here, which I found pretty interesting, and then we'll get into some of the points, right? Because again, you know, racially motivated violence or any of our Asian or Mexican brothers and sisters who have different things happening to them or have to deal with injustice the way we do, there's nothing wrong with fighting for them or fighting with them, but there are some caveats that we need to kind of get an understanding. You know what I mean? So I'm going to get into that in a minute. So in this article, it says, in recent weeks, we've seen a series of high-profile violent attacks against Asian Americans, ranging from brutal robberies to fatal assaults. Now, this week, a 21-year-old man killed 8 people, most of them Asian Americans in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, how many of the attacks were racially motivated? Because, you know, they're saying some of it's racially motivated. Sometimes they're saying that it can be based on President Trump labeling the coronavirus the China virus or whatever. So that could be some of the motivation behind the attack. So let's get into it. In order for an act of violence to be legally classified as a hate crime, the perpetrator has to explicitly mention or signal that they are committing this crime in the name of hatred for that group, right? In many of the most recent attacks on Asian Americans, the perpetrators made no such declaration. Over the past year, though, we've seen huge surge in violent crime for reasons criminologists are still trying to understand. In some cases, Asian Americans were probably caught up in the wave of murder and assault without being specifically targeted. However, Asian Americans are often stereotyped as being meek, passive, or well-to-do, all qualities that would make them more attractive targets according to research. Now, that kind of passive form of racial prejudice can still harm Asian Americans even if explicit hatred is not the reason they're being targeted. Let me see what else here. Something else I want to read to you guys. Okay, so that being said, there's quite a lot of evidence suggesting that people of Asian descent are becoming special targets of violence. Take, for instance, a January attack in Seattle where a man slugged an Asian American woman after yelling that Asians need to be put in their place. The Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, Santa Barbara, recently released a fact sheet that claims anti-Asian hate crime spiked 149% in America's largest cities during 2020. Let me see here. Oh, last thing I'll read about this before I get into my opinion, right? What is the source of this animosity? Though hate crimes against Asian Americans have been slowly rising since 2016, some evidence suggests that the past year's surge was driven, like I said a little earlier, by racist reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic. Former President Trump repeatedly referred to the COVID-19 as the China virus, which appears to have strengthened the association of Asian and disease in the minds of his followers, expressed through social media hate. Now, that's all I'm gonna read of that. That's all I'm gonna read of the article. But here's the thing, right? Because again, so as a black man in America, do I want to see any other underserved group, or do I want to see any other group of people get brutalized in this country, right? No, I do not. Like, not at all. But here's the thing, family, because for a minute when all of this Stop Asian hate shit was going on, which again, I support the movement, but there's some caveats that we need to discuss. So for one, I was seeing a lot of posts regarding the fact that black people were behind a lot of this shit, and that's completely false. Like, we are some of the most loving people in this country. Groups of black people do not go out attacking anybody, not even the white people who fuck with us. We don't do that. Now, in American life, there are one-offs all the time. Will you get somebody black teasing somebody Asian when you were a kid, or even now? Sure, that happens. Those are one-offs where you can have a black person teasing somebody Asian. You can have a black person teasing somebody Mexican. Mexicans and Asians probably do that type of shit too, right? So that's a different thing. But as far as us going around killing people, us going around brutalizing other groups of people, that shit just don't happen in large numbers. It don't. Like, we're some of the most loving people in this country, and we show that all the time. Because the motherfuckers who really brutalize us, we don't do nothing to them, right? And historically, we don't really get down like that, right? Now, again, it's nothing wrong with fighting for Asian people. If they are in a position like we're in, like if white supremacy is attacking Asian people, because some of these brutal attacks that I've seen is white people doing it, right? So if we're going to stand with another community, that's cool, right? And I've seen black people online calling out the hypocrisy. Like, some people in our community feel, we're standing up for Asian people right now, but where were they when we were talking about our Black Lives Matter shit? Where were they when Breonna Taylor, and we looking at all these different protests that we have to go through? Where were they when that shit was happening, right? And that's something that I have to be honest, I agree with that. Because if you're an Asian person or you're a Mexican person and you see us on the news fighting for our liberation, right? You see us in your neighborhood marching and fighting for our liberation. If you see George Floyd get his shit, if you see George Floyd get killed on camera and you're from another community and that doesn't make you outraged, why in the fuck should we be outraged when something happened to you, right? So this shit has to be, this shit has to go both ways. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. There's nothing wrong with us, because again, I see black people in my community with the Stop the Asian hate or whatever. Again, man, I'm hella with unity. Like, with all of us being unified. But we have to be honest, family. We have to be honest in this country, and this is my personal experiences. Sometimes people in Mexican communities, sometimes people in Asian communities, they don't really fuck with us like that, right? This is just the long and short of it. A lot of people who come over to this country, they take on the same ideology as the white supremacists who don't like us, so we fighting everybody. Everybody got a name for nigga. Am I lying? Stop me when I'm lying, family. Most races of people have a derogatory name for black people, and we don't. There are stereotypes about all of us. I get it. And all of us use certain stereotypes, but I'm learning quick, and I've learned quickly that most other races of people got negative ass names they call black people exclusively, right? Based on the perception, based on how white folks view us, right? So if we're going to do this Stop Asian hate shit, I'm with you. But you got to be marching with me too, goddammit. You got to be marching with me too. When we come in your store, because this is all facts right here. When we come in your store, you can't treat me like a goddamn criminal. If I come in your Asian store shopping with you, which I've seen this in my community and other communities where black people frequent, you can't treat us like shit. See, that's the dichotomy of all of this, family. Yes, We can stand together, but we got to stand together all the time, right? We got to stand together when some shit's happening to us too. Now, I'm not speaking to all people. We're not speaking in absolutes here. I know it just with the sheer numbers of shit, there are Asian people who feel for us and got a friend that's black or down for the movement, so they out there marching. I'm not saying that don't happen. I know Mexican people today that I know personally who down for us, who understand that all of us are behind enemy lines to a degree. So they ride with us. They march with us. They do all this shit with us, right? But again, we need to be clear about that, family. We need to be clear about that. We don't want to, don't come over here asking for our support when the white folks start fucking with you, right? Because they've been fucking with us since we got here. And again, I have to stand with my people who, I've seen a lot of people who say, look, yeah, it could be some Asian hate, but we've been going through crimes against us based on our race since we got here. You know what I mean? And just to be honest, in my humble fucking opinion, Asian people, some Mexican people to a degree, they have been able to set up infrastructure in this country that we have not been able to set up yet. So they were saying, and again, I don't wish violence on anybody. If you're an Asian person who ride with my black causes, then I'm going to ride with your Asian causes. Straight like that. You know what I mean? But we have to be honest that at times it don't seem like it's no big kumbaya shit. That's not how I be feeling. Like I don't be feeling the love like that. You know what I mean? Like we get stereotyped and treated a certain way. And again, this is from me going to Asian marts and being around people who I see they fear me a little bit. And I'm thinking all of this has to be based on perception because we don't really hurt nobody. Unfortunately, we hurt each other more than we hurt anybody outside of our community. And typically that's the same for most communities, right? You feel me? So, man, I just wanted to touch on the fact that, you know, all this Stop Asian Hate shit's been going around. You know, the massage parlors in Atlanta, like that was horrible. To just walk into any business and fire on innocent people, this is horrible, family. Like, I don't respect that at all. And I feel for all the families of the victims. But if we're talking about this kumbaya shit where we're going to come together, like all non-white people, if we're going to come together and be one and fight this system to create the rights we need, create the legislation that we need, I feel you, but you got to ride with us too. See, it can't be some shit where it's convenient for you. You know what I mean? Because again, like I said, a lot of people in Mexican communities, not all, we're never going to speak in absolutes, but a lot of people in Mexican communities, Asian communities, they look at us the same way white folks do. I've been called nigga in different languages, and I'm like, what did he just call me? And somebody has to translate for me what I'm actually being called. We haven't even sat down and thought of no, we get fucked with so much, we ain't even sat down and thought of no derogatory ass names for all these different races of people. But for some reason, they've done that to us. Think about that. You know what I mean? So yes, stop Asian hate, but if we gonna ride with y'all, y'all gotta ride with us too. You feel me? So let's go. That's the first one. Let's go. Next news story. Oh, if you haven't subscribed to Melanated Fathers TV, do that right now. If you haven't subscribed to Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube, do that right now. If you're listening to the show on a digital platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Google Podcasts, all these different places, click download the episode, of course, but please leave a review. Leave a review, leave a review, leave a review. Even if you think there is something I can be doing differently, leave a review. Leaving a review raises the algorithms, so I'll be able to reach more people. You know what I mean? So if you're listening to this on a digital platform, please leave a review, like it, share it. If you're listening to it on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube page, like the video, share the video. If you're listening to this on Facebook, please make sure you share the video. Go to Melanated Fathers TV on Facebook. Like that page, share that page as well. Let's go. Now, this is something I just found today that I thought was interesting. I know this information, but, you know, I love history, y'all. I want to make sure my black people is aware. You know what I mean? Let's go. So, many of us call a black person who does not mean us any good, or a black person who will sell us out for a white counterpart. You know what I mean? Many of us, or a coon, a black man we call a coon, who obviously speaks negatively about us for a paycheck, or obviously puts himself in a situation where he has influence, and he uses that influence to shit on black people, sometimes not even giving the real facts. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of people, a lot of black men in our society who exhibit this behavior. And again, in my opinion, like I've always told everybody, if we're talking real revolution, if we're talking black people standing, melanated people standing up the way we need to fight this system, if that's going to happen, the members of our community who are on the fence, the members of our community who obviously don't want to ride with us and are on the fence, so at any time they can turn on us. At any time they may think the grass is greener somewhere else and they'll fuck us over. Anybody who does that, we need to get rid of them first. Every slave, and I reiterate this because it's important and it's true. Every slave revolt that was thwarted was done so by a snitch, was done so by a black person who felt that the fucked up conditions they were in were good enough, and they were scared. They didn't want to rock the boat. They wanted to get a butter biscuit. Like, that's a real thing. I'm saying butter biscuit, but they would give them hot biscuits when they would give them hot biscuits when they told on one of us. You know what I mean? So it's important that we identify those individuals and figure out ways to get rid of them. Because again, Haiti, 1804, successful slave revolt. They went against, I think, the French, the British. Don't quote me on that. But they went against white armies and was very successful, right? Got their liberation. One of the reasons why Haiti is treated the way it's treated now, and they cut off all of their trading and things of this nature because of how effective they were in 1804. And one of the first things they did was they got rid of all the snitches. So, food for thought, right? So, when it comes to Uncle Tom, hold on one second. Hold on. Okay, so most black folks have heard or used the term Uncle Tom when referring to a sellout or someone we feel is tap dancing for attention and acceptance of other races. It has always been used in a derogatory manner to infer that this was the type of person who cozied up to his slave master. But did you know that the inference was totally wrong? So using Uncle Tom as a negative attribute is actually the wrong thing. So in essence, in truth, like true history, Uncle Tom was actually a man who refused to beat black women. Uncle Tom was a man who refused to tell on other slaves. Uncle Tom was a man who put cotton in other slaves' bags at night so they wouldn't get beat. Uncle Tom was a man who helped 100 slaves get freed long before the Underground Railroad, right? So this brother was actually a rider. Uncle Tom was a man that, once free, established the first laborer school for other fugitive slaves. Now, his name was actually Josiah Henson. Josiah Henson was an author, abolitionist, a minister. He was born into slavery, Port Tobacco, Charles County, Maryland. He escaped to Upper Canada in 1830 and founded a settlement and laborer school for other fugitive slaves at Dawn near Dresden in Kent County, Upper Canada of British Canada. So we have to understand that we need to stop calling each other Uncle Toms. And maybe some of you guys have known this, but information like this is, to me, is just interesting to know. But it's important that we get these terms correct, right? And learn history so we can create a different perspective. The actual name, so Uncle Tom is actually a compliment. Who would have thought it, right? So in actuality, Sambo was the sellout. He would do anything for the slave master's approval. He would snitch on his peers just to get a attaboy from his slave master, right? So Sambo is what you should call a nigga who don't mean our community no good. Not Uncle Tom. And I wasn't going to talk about that, but that's just cool to me. You know what I mean? So tell everybody that. Make sure everybody's aware of that. Don't use Uncle Tom no more. He was a rider. Let's go. All right. I was going to touch on that real quick. Now, I'm going to read a story about the unfortunate situation that happened in Boulder, Colorado, right? I'm going to read a story about the unfortunate situation that happened in Boulder, Colorado. Now, we actually seeing that the shooter initially, I thought the shooter, and again in Boulder, Colorado grocery store, person, a terrorist basically, a domestic terrorist, opened fire inside of a grocery store from his car. Actually went inside, fired more, ended up killing 10 people. But again, you can't get mad at us when we see people do crimes, or we see people have confrontations with the police. You can't get mad at black people when we see the police handle individuals with kid gloves, like a Dylan Roof, for instance, who was given Burger King on his way to jail after killing a hell of us inside of a church, right? So this individual, so let me just read a little bit of the story, then we'll talk some more about it. The story I'm going to read is about how Twitter users were comparing the fact that this gentleman who killed all these people in Boulder, Colorado, was escorted to the police car. He was escorted to an ambulance because he was hurt, but they handled him with kid gloves. Like if one of us just killed a cop and 10 people, I doubt that we'll live, right? I doubt that we'll live to actually get a trial and go to jail, right? So this monster in Boulder killed 10 people. Twitter users compare footage of Boulder shooter being escorted to ambulances in handcuffs after mass shootings. After mass shootings in Elijah McClain's death, right? So Twitter users compare footage of Boulder shooter being escorted to ambulance in handcuffs. Let me see here. As footage of authorities apprehending the Boulder, Colorado mass shooting suspect spread across social media on Monday, some Twitter users pointed out that the suspect was taken into custody with what they deemed relatively minor injuries and had been shot in the leg, even as he had just unleashed a deadly rampage that left 10 people dead. And again, some people may say, like, you're reaching, or some people may say, why even make that comparison, right? Well, look, man. As long as I'm alive and in this country, I'm always going to seek for fairness. Like, this shit needs to be fair. We all should be treated the same way, and that doesn't happen. That has never happened. So I feel it's my job to continue to speak on the inequities of this country so we can end up getting this shit right? So one of the things that they pointed out, let me see here. They were talking about Elijah McClain, right, who was a young man who was killed for walking home. His situation happened in August of 2019 when he was stopped by Aurora police officers responding to a 911 call about a suspicious person. The unarmed massage therapist, he was a massage therapist. The unarmed massage therapist was placed in a chokehold by officers and later sedated by responding paramedics before having a heart attack in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. He died several days later. Now, the shooter who after the initial police call said he was a white man, it came out that he was not a white guy. His name is Aman Al-Alawi Alisa. The 21-year-old shooting suspect is accused of opening fire at King Supper's grocery store on Monday, terrorizing shoppers. Now, authorities have identified 9 civilian victims, which is really unfortunate, family, in addition to a police officer who was also killed. The victims range from 20 to 65 years old. Just like I was saying, I mean, that's my honest opinion. Normally when a cop dies, they go ham on it, on whoever the suspect is, especially if it's a non-white person. Now, what everybody is pointing out, because Twitter and social media does a great job of pointing out the inequities in a lot of these stories, and then, bigger media publications take this information and actually use it to create bigger stories, right? So Twitter, social media, these platforms have been God sent for our liberation. It allows us to shed light on things that major news corporations typically don't look at. You know what I mean? So what they're pointing out is, and this is one of the reasons why I want to read this article or talk about this article with you guys, a TV writer named Dylan Park initially identified the suspected shooter as a white male to draw contrast between the two different Americas that we live in. He wrote, a white man walked into a grocery store in Boulder, killed 10 people, and was apprehended by police and walked out of the building completely unharmed. Right down the road, because they're bringing up Elijah McClain because it's happening in the same city. Right down the road, police killed Elijah McClain while he apologized for not doing anything wrong. Two different Americas right now. Hours later, the shooter was identified, and Park retweeted a tweet stating that the call, and this is important, the 911 call was for a white male, which presumably impacted the way he was handled by officers. You're goddamn right. In my opinion, you're goddamn right. If they thought they were going there to apprehend a white man, that's different than him being an Arab or him being somebody black. You know what I mean? And can't nobody tell me nothing different. Look, until we stop getting treated, now we're not speaking in absolutes here. I'm going to continue to say that. Every police encounter that a black person have does not end in them getting shot, right? We need to be clear. Like, are we getting shot by police every day in the streets? Maybe not. But it happens way too much for my comfort. Like a guy told me, he pointed out to me, he's like, why are you always talking about police killings? It's only 2 per year or 3. He's giving me all these stupid ass stats. This shit shouldn't happen at all. Unarmed white men don't get killed. Unarmed white young women, unarmed white teenage boys don't get killed in America without the cop going to jail for a long time. Show me. Prove it to me and I'll stop talking about it. Prove me that white kids are getting killed. 9-year-old white kids, 15-year-old white kids are getting killed. Nothing's happening about it. You know what I mean? Now, I understand underserved communities. Most underserved communities have problems with police, but it's all about how we're handled. It's all about the level of empathy that's shown. You know what I mean? And that's rare when it comes to us. So, yes, do I think if they would have mentioned that this was a black guy who shot these people in Colorado, or a Mexican guy or Asian guy, I don't know how they would have responded, but I know it wouldn't have been like that, where you just walk them to the car. You know what I mean? So let's see here. So this shit should always be about fairness, people. So when it comes to us, we never get the benefit of the doubt. When it comes to police encounters, we never get the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? And it's our job as black Americans, as melanated Americans, to continue to point this shit out until it stops happening, right? So let's go. And another story I want to talk to you about, which kind of coincides with that one. Hold on one second. Let me see here. Oh, okay. So, and again, this is more about, until it changes, like I said, we need to continue to talk about it. This is more about who should show up if there's a mental illness. If somebody first off, if you're a black person and you're not in harm, you're not in harm's way, like nobody's attempting to create bodily harm, or nobody's sick in your family as far as like a heart attack or something you need an ambulance for, I really recommend we stop calling the police for mental health issues, right? So let me read this story so y'all can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Excuse me. Now, a family in Indianapolis, Indiana, is suing the city and its police department for the death of Eleanor Northington, a woman who died in church 2 years ago with the police officer's knee digging into her back. Now, as she struggled in her final moments, which is an eerie thing, the 43-year-old black mom of 3 uttered the same words that Eric Gardner and George Floyd did. She said she couldn't breathe. Isn't that? Damn, whatever. All right. So the fatal incident happened on the night of February 6, 2019, when police responded to reports of a woman suffering from a mental health crisis at the Mount Calvary Apostolic Church, Vice reported. Now, multiple officers arrived at the scene and wrestled with the woman who was believed to be assaulting and spitting at members of the church. Again, if a 43-year-old heavyset woman is pushing people in the church and cussing at them, saying things they don't like, family, we need to find a different way to deal with that. Let her calm down. Everybody move away from her. I just talked about a story a few weeks ago about a pastor who was having an episode. He was bipolar. He was in his home having an episode. No gun, no knife. He was just yelling, screaming. He was irate. in that situation, it seems as if the police tried to dispatch a mental health professional instead of the police, but for whatever reason, the mental health professionals weren't available. And what they were saying was, it just wasn't enough of them, right? It just wasn't enough mental health professionals to help out, right? But again, when black family, if you have a family member who is struggling with a mental health issue, like they bipolar, they suffer from depression, and because of these things, they start acting wild. They start cussing you out. They start pushing people around. Do not call the police, family. It's fucked up to say, but at this point, something really, 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 really serious have to be going on for me to call the police. And I'm talking really about shit. Somebody steal my car and I don't know who did it. Somebody in my family sick and we need an ambulance right away. These are like the only situations I'm calling the police, family. And this is not my fault. This is America's fault. This is America's fault, because I don't judge this shit strictly based on seeing black folks get killed in the news, seeing all the injustices, because we got to understand how the media works, and the media does play on the sensibilities of certain people. I understand that. Fuck that. I'm talking about the neighborhood that I grew up in. I'm talking about the actual neighborhood that I grew up in, and watching how police conducted themselves. When my brother and his friends, they were street dudes, they were conducting themselves on the streets, but how the police treated them, how the police treated the members of my community was despicable. I seen this shit with my own two eyes, right? So a part of me just feels like I don't know what's gonna happen if I call them. You see? So in this situation, this is a black lady who's in a church. But for crying out loud, shit. She in a church. Y'all should be able to calm her down. Pray for her. Shit. What you calling the police for? Ask God. You in God's house. Ask him to help her sit down. You know what I mean? Put your hand on her head. Like, make her talk in tongues, some shit. Y'all know what y'all doing in there. You know what I mean? Now, police said she fought back as they tried to handcuff her and also attempted to spit on the officer. Now, the pastor of the church then placed a cloth over Northington's mouth, trying to prevent her from spitting on officers, the lawsuit states. After placing her in handcuffs, deputies pinned Northington face down on the carpet flooring with cloth still covering her face. And the family is basically stating that the church putting the cloth over her mouth, along with the officers having her pinned down, all played a part. And something else I'm going to mention, like, people may not like it, but something else I'm going to mention, just like Eric Gardner. Now, the cops killed Eric Gardner. I'm sure of it, right? This lady, she's a little older than me, but this lady, without the cops' involvement, she wouldn't have died. But these two people in particular were severely overweight. So sometimes, not all the time, because we had the George Floyd situation where they're putting their knee in his neck. But with this lady, she was handcuffed to the ground, and they just had her in a particular position. And her weight, we got to be honest, her weight played a small role in that too. So, you know what I mean? The fact that we got to deal with diabetes, we got to deal with heart disease, all these different ailments that really attack us based on our eating habits, that's something to think about too, family. Like, how healthy are you? Like, I'm not saying you got to eat kale and be a vegan, but we all need to be conscious of our weight, because it can cause problems in the future in several different ways. You know what I mean? So, while the 43-year-old complained about not being able to breathe, officers ignored her cries, then tried to revive her with CPR after taking off the handcuffs, the lawsuit states. Northington died at the hospital 2 days after being taken off of life support. So again, this is a black woman who was dealing with a mental health issue, right? She was dealing with a mental health issue. She wasn't dealing with she didn't have a gun, or she wasn't threatening anybody with violence. Because again, if she would have had a weapon, a gun, or something that could possibly really hurt somebody, maybe you do call the police if nobody can stop her and she's in danger of hurting somebody. Maybe you do. But not in this situation, family. If your brother or sister or cousin is just going through something where they are depressed, or they've been clinically told that they're bipolar or some shit like that, I recommend trying to get them some medicine. I recommend giving them a little break, taking a walk with them, something like that. If they hitting people, if they're not a big person, I mean, allow them to get that off their chest real quick. But bringing cops into the situation, they're not going to arrive with enough empathy to help the situation. You know what I mean? So that's a real fucked up story, man. I hope that the family, again, when we talk about lawsuits and suing, I would prefer if the cops that are involved go to jail. You know what I mean? But if getting money is gonna help with expenses, if it's gonna help cover whatever this person contributed to your household, I get it too. Like, something has to be done, right? So I understand that. But RIP to the sister Eleanor Northington, another individual in this country who had to lose their life at the hands of a police officer, right? So let's go. Let me see here. Last news story. This is something I wasn't going to talk about, but let me see here. Oh, just something real quick I want to touch on. So, I wasn't familiar with this brother until today. I think I seen one of his videos before maybe, but today is when I really became familiar with him. Now, the brother Derek Jack, and to my knowledge, y'all can stop me if I'm wrong, he is a brother who writes books and talks a lot about relationships and what women need to do and how you can manage a relationship and this type of thing, right? And to my understanding, hold on one second. And to my understanding, he's helped people, and he has a big platform where he helps people with relationships and all of these things, right? So here's my unpopular take on it. Hold on one second. This, for one, is none of our business. I personally think that a person could have knowledge about relationships, have knowledge about how you should move in relationships, all of these things, right? And give information about it, right? Give information about what you should do. Rally people, because I'm sure the brother has helped people, right? I don't think just because you're giving information about relationships and you're helping people, if it comes out that you did something wrong as far as cheating on your wife or whatever, can people look at that and say, well, wait a minute, you were preaching one thing and doing another? Because, again, I'm not familiar with the brother's material like that. Now, if he's condemning people for cheating, because, again, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, from what I've seen about the brother in the videos, he's talking about relationships, what women should do, what men should do, all these type of things, right? Now, if he's also combining that with why you shouldn't cheat, why it's bad to cheat, coming down on men who do cheat, then he's a really, really big hypocrite, and all the backlash he get, cool, right? But one of the things I didn't like, this is why I want to talk about the story. He did an apology with his wife, right? Sitting next to his wife. And again, because everything is public, because all of us have access to social media, we can say what we want to say, right? But this whole cancel culture shit, this whole judgmental shit that we do, like, people are looking at, and I'm reading the comments, people are looking at his wife's outfit. Like, his wife had on like a sweater and she was covering up, you know what I mean? She was covered up. So yeah, if you want to say, hey, the brother shouldn't be a hypocrite, he shouldn't be a hypocrite and talk about shit about cheating, about women, and then he end up doing the same thing, I get that. Critique him, right? He's a public figure. We have access, or we are all in this social media world where we can talk and give our opinion, sure, but we need to get rid of the personal attacks. Like, I seen people dogging this woman because of what she had on, right? And then she came out and did another video, and again, she ain't looking all sexy. She had on a hat and some shirts or whatever. They dogging her in too. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, that should never be cool. Like, I'm getting so tired of seeing that. I love being on social media because of my platform, and because I'm really hell-bent on spreading my message, but we need to get rid of, like, the judgmental shit. I think sometimes we cross the line from observing and giving our opinion to being malicious damn near, right? Especially with people we don't know. Like, talking about this woman outfit and she all ugly, and yeah, I understand that she did this, but what's up with the outfit though? Like, damn, some of y'all need to put down your goddamn phones. You know what I mean? How about we talk about everybody like they right there in front of our face? That's the philosophy that I use when it comes to being on social media, when it comes to speaking about men and women on my platform. Talk about them like they right there in your face. I think some of us are so disconnected from what reality really is. We get on our platform, we get on our social media and say whatever the fuck we want to say, like with no regards of how it can affect somebody else. What if that woman is sick? What if that woman is going through something and now she read all these comments about her goddamn clothes? Come on, y'all. And again, I know it's social media. I know we can say whatever we want. I know people shouldn't be so sensitive too. I'm aware of all this shit. But we come off way too judgmental at times, man. I'm watching people post things about celebrities and about about public figures. You would almost think they knew the motherfucker. You don't know these people. You don't know them. Like every black person in America now, if you a black man who a coon, if you come out and verbally speak negatively about us and you have influence, this can cause your followers, this can cause people who already stereotype us to think of us the same way. So that's horrible, and that has a negative effect on our community. But personal attacks on people based on what they wearing, based on an incident, TMZ or somebody will report to us what somebody did. And honestly, what if all the shit ain't true? What if we don't have if you don't have all the details? I'm not saying don't give your opinion, but you can't be malicious. Don't give your opinion like it's fact. Don't give your opinion with malicious intent, because whoever you're talking about, they may have to catch wind of this shit. You know what I mean? And again, if you was in their face, I'm not sure you would conduct yourself like that. You know what I mean? So check it out, man. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Like I said, family, please do me a favor and go. If you're listening to this digitally, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Overcast, Google Podcasts, all these things, please review the show. Download it like you guys have been doing, but review the show as well. Please go to Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There you'll find interviews. You'll find this show. You'll find information about history. All of that will be on the YouTube channel. Facebook family, go to Melanated Fathers TV on Facebook. Subscribe to the Facebook channel or subscribe to the Facebook page so you can be aware when we drop new videos. You can be aware when we have Fatherhood Fridays or on Friday. We have a lot of images and a lot of videos about fatherhood, which is really cool. You can find that on my Instagram page as well, which is Melanated Fathers 100. I'm out.